COP27 is over, and messaging around the summit has been pretty optimistic. But World in 2050 has been following proceedings, and we think that a more cautionary tone is appropriate. While there's always room for hope, COP27 did fail to deliver in several key areas, most disappointingly falling short on climate justice for the Global South. Now, it will be years before we can really assess how successful the climate summit was, but we do have some key initial takeaways. Now, there are some reasons for hope. The two wins most commonly cited from the summit are the so-called Loss and Damage Fund and progress toward an agreement on carbon markets. Less talked about, but potentially more impactful, is the return to the sidelines as COVID restrictions ease. Now, the Loss and Damage Fund does address some climate justice issues, at least in principle. What it does is creates a pot that wealthier countries pay into, and which vulnerable countries hurt by climate change can claim damages from. For now, though, there aren't actually any mechanisms in place for how money is paid in or taken out. Worse, the amounts of money involved aren't really enough to allow climate-impacted countries to build resilience or to transition dirty systems. Yet, it is a start. As to carbon markets, there has been some progress on what more unified carbon market mechanisms would look like. But those negotiations are set to continue for some time. As things stand in current negotiations, it does look as though some carbon credits could be double claimed, which is a big issue. The bigger reason for hope, we think, is the sidelines. Civil service, industry reps, and technocrats made the return to COP in a big way this year. And a lot of our long-term progress with grand summits, we've found, comes from these sidelines as often as not more than the main stage. There's also several ways that the summit fell short. There was no commitment to winding down fossil fuel production, with countries like COP host Egypt and producers like Russia and Saudi Arabia being among countries resisting a resolution that would have called for a phase-out of fossil fuels over time. The resolution that ultimately did get through was a much watered-down version. What it did is promote both clean and low-emissions energy. The issue here is that the meaning of low emissions is very much open to interpretation. This COP also disappointed on progress toward a just green transition and better resilience. Both topics were discussed a lot, but they didn't really go anywhere. At issue in both cases is finance. Ultimately, less affluent countries, especially in the Global South, need help to build up the resilience to climate change as well as to transition their energy, agriculture, transport, and other systems. They need help, and there's also serious moral arguments that they deserve our help. But there was negligible progress toward this at this year's COP. Overall, the biggest takeaway from COP26 last year was that the groundwork had been laid for big progress at COP this year. And there was some progress this year, but it's hard to call that progress big. For a summit that was meant to grapple with the specific challenges faced by the Global South as we all seek to build climate resilience and transition to cleaner systems, it's hard to feel like this COP has done anything but fall short.